Well, Katie Glenn Daniel, the Director of Legal Affairs and Policy Counsel at Susan B. Anthony Pro-Life America, has been on the forefront of fighting for life at the state level. Katie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be here.
Well, pro-lifers saw, as we were just hearing, their first major victories at the ballot box post-Roe. We had victories in Florida, Nebraska, and South Dakota. Why do you think that we won in those states?
Well, one of the things we saw was strong leadership from our elected officials. Governor Ron DeSantis, my governor in Florida, he pounded the pavement all across the state, making the case for why Amendment 4 would be so bad for Floridians. We saw something similar with our lawmakers in Nebraska and South Dakota. These are people who have been elected by the voters, who they trust. And so when they made the case directly and fought against the lies of the abortion industry, we saw success.
Yeah, it was great in Florida, Life won. You know, we were so happy about that. Katie, do you think there should be a method for maybe future ballot initiatives, and what other strategies could be used?
Well, I think one of the other things we saw was that as a pro-life movement, we have to work together. The other side seems to print money. In Florida, they spent over $100 million. So what we have to do is really take the case directly to our friends, neighbors, voters, our fellow parishioners, and explain why our laws are protecting life, are protecting moms, especially. That's something that really resonates with voters. We saw success finally after several years of failure on this issue in 2022, 23. We seem to have cracked the code, and so we're optimistic that there's a lot of work to do, but we can defeat these in the future.
Yeah, sadly, we also saw 7 losses in this past year. How did those come about?
Well, one of the things that we saw that was very effective, and so I hope everybody does understand that this is a lie, is the idea that women cannot receive health care in a medical emergency. There is not a single pro-life law in the country, including in all those states where we lost, where that's true. And in fact, people like the very pro-abortion Arizona Attorney General has said that, even while the campaign for abortion in Arizona was disagreeing with her on television to lie that to the voters. So I think we have to be cohesive in our message about that, because they've found that to be the most effective lie. And even we saw Joe Biden and Kamala Harris using that same message in their ads nationwide.
Yeah, you just mentioned the drastically, the great disparity in spending that took place. How can we use grassroots to try to combat some of this, recognizing as we do that there is this huge disparity?
In the states that were successful, they saw so much involvement of the church communities. So it was being spoken about in churches and other houses of worship all over their states. People were not afraid to say that there is a right and wrong way to vote on this. There's a way to vote that protects life, that protects moms, and there's a way to vote that would enrich the abortion industry. I know it's not always easy, or if people feel like they might make someone uncomfortable, but the stakes are high. And so when we can be educating our neighbors and having them have a comfort level with the good work of our pro-life laws that are literally saving hundreds of thousands of lives, we've got to step into that uncomfortable place, and you can find people to be very receptive to the message.
Yeah, Katie, looking ahead, what states are you tracking right now that you have sort of your eye on, and talk about your initiatives?
So there are several states that the pro-abortion side has already said that they plan to engage in. Many of those are in the Mountain West, states like Idaho, Utah, Oklahoma. We expect another challenge in South Dakota, even though they lost by 20 points. We think that pro-lifers in South Dakota should have made the case that this will not win, but that's another state that could potentially see this. And so in all those states, they have passed very protective laws, laws that protect babies from conception, that say every baby's life is valuable. So we've got to spend the next 2 years really making the case directly to the people that when they're presented with the petition to even put this on the ballot, they say, I don't think that we should.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit more about that, changing the hearts and minds of those and bringing them over to the pro-life side.
Well, I think one of the things we've seen done very well in these states, and certainly in Florida, I'm proud of what we've done, is pairing protections for life that prevent abortion with support for moms and families. So when we passed our heartbeat law, we also passed $25 million in services money for moms and families to support them directly, and an ad campaign to make sure that they knew about these services being available. In Texas, they are really leading the way on this, where they spend hundreds of millions of dollars supporting families directly. So I think as pro-lifers, we do so many things in our private lives and through our churches to support philanthropic efforts like the thousands of pregnancy centers around the country. Our politicians are getting in the game too, and I think that does make the case that we are genuine when we say that we really do support moms, their babies, and their entire families.
So important. And thank you for your important work and what you do. God bless
Thank
you,
you.
Katie. Thanks for being here.